Well, hello there, folks. Welcome to a new look, new format, and even a new time for Last Days Live. Most of you know that I've spent the last month or so getting ready for a pretty big deal. We're doing a Lord's Day Live on Sunday morning now. We've got churches that are using that for their youth classes as well as for the sermon time and things of that nature. And so that kind of has been my distraction the last month. But I think I finally got things underhand, and we finally got my office done, and you can see the backdrop here. And so I'm feeling pretty good about it. And I'm hopeful that this is going to be a good thing. It's going to work well, and we're going to be able to use it in a big way. Let me take a minute and see if I can pull this up on my own Facebook, and then I'll be able to actually watch. I just noticed that for whatever reason, I don't have the thing pulled up on my dealer office here so I can see your comments. And so I was kind of thinking maybe I could pull that up. But I don't know, it's not working at the moment. So we'll see if it's going to pull in there. I'll have to have Cindy work with me on that, I guess, because I don't seem to have... Oh, well, there's one. Buddy's watching. Well, there you go. Maybe I am going to be okay. So, very good. All right, well, you see our new backdrop. Let's get after this. Got a lot to talk about. There's Hutch. Good to see you. I hadn't heard from you in a while. Lovely backdrop. Aren't you kind? That's my new office. I'm kind of tickled with it. We're blessed. We got a lot of work done on it, and Cindy also's got me set up here where I can actually. I'm kind of like the weatherman. And let's see. I point up here this way. Yeah, this way. There, right up here. You're going to see in a minute there's going to be a picture going to pop up here. Well, let's just do it. Here, watch this. This is crazy good. Boom. Look at there. Last Days Live. And there's our little thing. And so what we're going to do for Last Days Live is I'm going to set a little off center, and then I'm going to, you got to point backwards in these things. There he is. There, right there. See that thing? And that's where we're going to have a lot of our stuff up there on for this. So there you go. There's Mom. Hi, Mom. Glad to have you. And a bunch of you popping in there. If I keep reading everybody, I'm not going to get anything done, am I? Last Days Live. Most of you know that when we started this several months ago, we were attempting to look at the fact that obviously we're living in the last days. And we as Christians need to make practical application to that. And so notice this passage, which is going to be reoccurring throughout our time together in the coming year. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1 through 5. But mark this. There will be terrible times in the last days, and then he goes into this lengthy list of things. And we're going to see many passages over the course of our time together that deal with last days, but we'll probably use this as our launching pad each time. And today, verse 3 is these words that you're going to see: slanderous, without self-control, and brutal. These are the descriptions that were written many, many years ago, and yet we're seeing them play out. Last Days Live. It's like, go to the television, watch the news, get online, and you can see this stuff right now happening as we speak. And so we're trying to take this particular passage, and we're trying to show the world and inspire Christians to recognize we are in the last days, and we need to make proper preparations because of that. So let's get right into our first current event. I actually have two pictures with regards to last days current events. This is a compilation of two things. I really debated. I didn't know which way to go with regards to this subject because I wanted to cover one, and then I also wanted to cover the other. So I'm just going to kind of touch on the one with regards to abortion. We'll probably see it more in the future. But I really want to talk about this Nick Sandmann guy and what took place and how it can affect you and I as Christians. You can see the meme that's there on the left. Millions of people will condemn this smile and call it evil because supposedly he, had that confrontational thing happening there with that Native American guy. While at the same time, see the lower picture, they're going to applaud with cheers and smiles and all of those kind of things, those politicians who just made killing a baby moments before birth legal in New York State. I want to deal with that bottom picture first, Governor Cuomo, and what took place there. We need to really be concerned. Obviously, we need to be in prayer for folks that live in New York and other liberals around the country. That one of the greatest tragedies in life, it seems to me, at least in America today, is when you get a bunch of women who will literally march on Washington for the right to kill their baby. There's just something wrong about that. Now, I recognize that, the liberals are going to use this excuse, but we're only doing it, to save the mother's life, or we're only doing it to save the mother's health, whatever it may be. And yet, if you research that out, it's just simply not true. Pregnancies that develop a scenario that actually put the mother's life at risk are so very, very minuscule in the comparison of all the data. I'm told that it's like a fraction of 1% of all abortions and that actually are taking place because the mother's life is actually in danger. I read a report in USA Today that was talking, and I don't have the specific statistics in front of me, but it says something to the effect about 3/4 of all abortions that are performed not because of health reasons, but because it's an inconvenience, because it's going to radically change my lifestyle and I don't want that, because it's going to influence my career, whatever. And so we have now this law that's been passed in New York State that they can take a baby's life right up to the point of birth, and I struggle with that. Matt Walsh, I think is his name. He put out just recently a question that I put it out to you as well. I'd love to have your input on this subject. Is there, in late-term abortion, I'm talking about late-term abortion, why is it important to kill the baby before taking the baby from the womb? Why is that important for the mother's health? And I'm not really sure. In fact, I've had several nurses who've responded to this and told me, in fact, and I even saw some evidence from another post that was online about a doctor who brings children into the world, saying that that's a nonsensical conclusion, that somehow there's an advantage to the mother's health by killing the child before in a late-term abortion. I don't know. But anyhow, the bottom picture there, that's where I really wanted to go. And we'll probably deal with that in the future because that's a subject matter that's not going to go away. But this one at the top, Nick Sandman, this is something we need to talk about because this is going to affect Christians. And it kind of sets us up for the last days that we're talking about in our time together. So let's just zoom in on this guy specifically. Of course, the guy on the left there, that's Nick Sandman. He is a student at, let's see, what is it? He's a student at the Covington Catholic School in Kentucky. And they were, I'm told, in Washington, D.C., for the purpose of, the gathering for the March for Life and in support of life. And of course, he's got the MAGA hat on, Make America Great Again. And there's been a lot of talk about that. But the reason this particular story resonates with me with regards to end times and last days things is because you saw how quickly the media was willing to just crucify a person without having the full story. As I understand it, and I got the facts here that I've been researching all week long, so I'll make sure I got things correct. The guy on the right there, his name's Nathan Phillips, and he's an Indian. He's a Native American. And it was supposed that Nick had approached this guy and was doing things to taunt him and make fun of him, etc. But as the full story eventually came out, and of course the media at front end, he's just the kid's a bad guy, largely because he's got that hat on. Anything connected with President Trump, it's got to be a bad thing, right? Well, that was the very short sound bite that they got at the front end, and so everybody's concluding this guy, this teenager, he's just a typical teenager, disrespecting everybody, and he's not respecting this elder from some Indian tribe, etc. But as the full story came about, we're now learning a lot of other details. One of which is that the teenagers, the young people in the background, were actually being harassed, I'm told, by a group of black Hebrew Israelites, they call themselves. One article that I was reading, they call them street preachers. Now, some of the language that I'm about to use, I can't imagine a street preacher of having any legitimacy actually using this kind of language. But these black Hebrew Israelites were taunting the young people because of the reason that they had left Kentucky to come to Washington and what they were doing, and I guess the hats and all of that. And here's some of the things that these black Hebrew Israelites were saying. They called them dusty ASS crackers. My mom doesn't let me say that word, ASS, especially in that kind of a context. A bunch of future school shooters. A bunch of incest babies. I suppose that's some kind of a remark towards people who live in Kentucky. I would sure hope Kentucky folks are taking offense to this, because it just really, really bothers me, this claim that, racism is happening in our world today to such a horrible degree, and it's all us white men that are at fault, and yet you've got these black Hebrew Israelites calling them crackers and incest babies, etc. And then there's this last quote, and I heard it myself on the recording. The biggest terrorist on the face of this earth is the pale-faced man, woman, and child. That's the kind of, and I really struggle with even using the word racism, because we are one race. There's the human race. Now, some of us have a darker skin color, and some of us have a lighter skin color, but we just need to get past that. Because we got all these varieties happening. Some of us have a big nose, and some like me, and then some of us have, whatever it may be. And it's so petty. And I recognize our country has been very, very, very petty in the past. But those who have been targeted in the past with this pettiness need to rise above and show some of us who you're claiming to be racist, show some of us a better pattern. And this isn't doing it. When you call these white children ASS crackers and a bunch of future school incest baby, how does that help? How does it help? Well, the real reason I wanted to talk about this, though, today is this. And let's see if I can give you my 3 pointers. I think I can. Watch this. I think there's 3 reasons we need to be concerned. Number 1, we need to be thinking about the rush to judgment that took place here. I want you to consider yourself as a Christian, and I want you to consider your context with regards to having your own children who are out in the public and all those kind of things. When people rush to judgment because they wear a certain hat, or they have a Christian bumper sticker on the tailgate of their car, are we going to be targeted in the future as individuals that aren't worthy, as some of the liberal politicians seem to be suggesting that we aren't worthy to be part of dialogue? We aren't worthy to interact in the social setting? And are they going to rush to judgment? What would happen if it had been your son? And they take this little sound bite out, not recognizing that it's part of a broader picture, a bigger picture. And what about this Native Indian guy, the Native American guy, beating his drum in the midst of the conversation, or at least in the midst of the confrontation that's going on? I'm not sure that Nick actually ever said anything. If that had been reversed, how would that have been played out in the media? If Nick had been the one who beats the drum while the older man is trying to speak to him, or the older man is standing there in front of him, how would that have played out? Rush to judgment, not getting all of the facts. Let me say to my Facebook friends, and I certainly have been guilty of this in the past, but I had some pretty good friends who were just immediately on top of this and suggesting that this guy, this boy is rude and he's crude and he's just like all the teenagers of our world today, only to have to issue apologies later. We need to be really careful to get our sourcing right. We need to be really careful to make sure that we're accurate. And one of the things we need to do, because I think this is accurate with regards to this story, this stuff's still playing out. We're still going to find out more news with regards to what all is going on here. I doubt personally that Nick Sandman, whatever his name is, was totally innocent in this. I'm sure that I know how teenagers are, and especially when you're in a conflict kind of a confrontational situation. I doubt he was totally innocent in this. But the fact that the media jumped on it so quickly because they have such a Trump hatred, and anything that represents Trump has to be a bad thing. What happens when you as a Christian and your value system is stepped on in the same manner? Fake news, we've heard and I've had so many of my friends on Facebook who have talked, about, fake news, and, Trump he's launching this war against the media, and the media is not the enemy. I'm not so sure. We've got propaganda that is obviously coming out of the news media that just take this one this one example where all of a sudden they're running with this story to have to backtrack. And it's not the first time that this has happened within the last 2 years. It's not the first time they're having to backtrack and they're having to apologize for what they've said, etc. This fake news, yes, I think that it is true that there are many in the media who are the enemies of America. And we as Christians need to be very, very careful about what we're piping into our homes. You got that news channel on, whatever that news channel happens to be, and you're saying to yourself, well, I'm not really watching it. And maybe that's true. But you've got that coming into your head in the background, and your children are passing by that television on their way to their bedroom or the way to the kitchen or whatever it may be, and that stuff does resonate. You need to take control of your televisions. You need to take control of your internet systems, etc. And then number 3, there's no way to undo this thing. There are several who've come out and who have apologized, and God bless them. That's a good thing. But you know what? Once it's said, it's said. And there are many, I guess I could even say probably the majority of in the news media, who just don't want to address it. They want to run past the story as fast as possible because they got their hand caught in the cookie jar and they recognize they're guilty. And there's just no way to go back and undo it now. And we have such little concern for what has happened and so little personal responsibility for what is taking place. Let's move on now to let's see if I got to cancel these 2 out and come to this one. I want you to notice this particular passage because I think that it ties in with this whole idea of us living in the last days, and some words from our Savior who says in Luke chapter 6, "Blessed are you when people hate you, when they exclude you and insult you and reject your name as evil because of the Son of Man." My first point. And he says, number 2, "Rejoice in that day and leap for joy because great is your reward in heaven, for that is how their ancestors treated the prophets. Woe to you when everyone speaks well of you, for that is how their ancestors treated the false prophets." 3 things I see in this passage that I think are important with regards to this subject. I'm not saying that Nick and his buddies were all innocent, but what I am saying is that there is a pattern here that should concern us as far as Christians are concerned. And that is that what if in the future we're treated this way? And many of our brothers and sisters in Christ are being treated this way. They just assume that they're wrong because they're Christians. Well, remember what the Lord said, that it's going to happen in the last days, that people are going to exclude you, they're going to insult you, they're going to reject your name as being evil because of the Son of Man. I go back to the confirmation hearings as we were trying to get our next Supreme Court justice and all that went on in that hearsay, just little more than gossip that was taken to the media and the media portrayed it as fact. Well, it's coming. It's quickly coming down the path for you and I as Christians in the church that we're going to be called before judges and magistrates and authorities and people like that. And they're just going to assume we're guilty. It's not going to be that we really get a fair hearing. We need to be preparing ourselves for that. But notice what he says, number 2. He says, when that happens, we should rejoice. It's kind of like, what is that, James chapter 1? We should rejoice whenever we fall into various or diverse temptation, trials, and things of that nature, hardships. We need to be happy. Why? Because we're suffering right along with Jesus. And Jesus hurts when we hurt, present tense. And so we ought to rejoice because we have been counted worthy, as the apostles would say earlier in Acts, or later on in Acts. We've been counted worthy to suffer for the cause of Christ. But then number 3, notice verse 26. He offers a woe as he concludes this, and that is, "Woe to you when everyone speaks well of you." We're not intended to be popular. And I don't like being, well, this is one of those where you're just going to be in your face during these times. To the snowflake spiritualists who we got in many of our pulpits, you need to grow a backbone. You're not intended to be an individual that constantly gets the accolades at the back of the room and constantly has people, pat you on the back and tell you what a good guy you are. I've had some serious moments here recently that just really, I struggled with some of the responses that I was getting, largely because of some of the things I was saying online. But you can't back down. And may I just say, to be as blunt as I can, if it's too hot in the kitchen, get out the kitchen. You can't handle it in the pulpit, get out of the pulpit. Go do something else. But we are called to be Christians in the last days who say things that represent Jesus, and we're told in this passage and many others that when we say it, they're going to reject us, our name, they're going to call our name evil, they're going to insult us, they're going to exclude us, but we're to rejoice because of it. Now, that doesn't mean we need to just go around trying to find trouble. I'm not suggesting that, but I am suggesting that you can't back away from truth. And when people build these mega churches, because everybody loves what the preacher is saying, everybody wants to talk about grace. Everybody wants to discuss heaven. Everybody likes to dwell on mercy. But when it comes time to recognize that, those things happen because we've escaped a world, spiritually speaking, that is sucking the life out of our friends and neighbors, we begin to recognize that you can build a mega church on good news that's just warm and fluffy and has no substance. Or you can build a church on good news which recognizes personal responsibility. Now, that second one's probably not going to be as large as the first, because throughout history, we've always been in the minority. We've grown the fastest when we're hiding in caves, and when we're just little pockets, little groups here and there. But that is the pattern of the last days, and it's something I think that we need to revisit. Well, let's see, what else we got here? Oh yeah, meme of the week. Meme of the week. We're going to try to do this each week. On the left, you see what they're reporting. On the right, you see what they actually should be reporting, what actually happened. I saw this online, and I thought that is so true, and it fits really well, does it not, with this particular current event. In this particular current event, you got a very nasty teenager who is being very confrontational to this Native American guy. Once you broaden the picture and you recognize what's happening, the story completely changes, doesn't it? We need to be careful. We need to do our fact-checking, etc. All right, bug out bag. Bug out bag. Where's my bug out bag? Here it is. We started this a couple months ago. Cindy made this for me. And by the way, she's making more, and I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. It's just a drawstring bag, and I've got a bunch of stuff in here. I keep this in the trunk of my car. You can probably see at the back. It's kind of dirty, but that's the reason, because I keep it in the trunk of my car, and we carry it with us wherever we happen to go. The bug out bag. I wanted to tell you that what I'm going to do is I need you to give me your insights. I need you to give me your comments. Let me know. Where am I off? What have I said that doesn't, hold water? Or maybe something I've done is inaccurate. Or maybe you've got another insight that would help me, and others need to be reading it, etc. I need you to give me those things. Give me those pointers. Talk to me. And so as you do that, I'm going to keep up with some of these, and I'm going to choose once a month. I'm going to choose somebody who's really helped me, that's really done something that would take care of business as far as this particular subject goes, and I'm going to send them a bug out bag. My first one goes. Let me see if I can get. Let's see, turn it this way. There you go. I had a good friend who loaned me his book, Sheep No More. It's not a religious book at all. Jonathan T. Gilliam, but it talks about things that would apply to end time subjects. With regards to, you need to understand the enemy. And we ought not just be like sheep who just kind of, go wherever without thinking. We've got to take control of our context. We've got to understand our particular context and what's going on within that context. I'd like to recommend the book to you, but the reason I bring it to your attention is my buddy Tony down there in Louisiana is the one who sent this to me, and Tony's going to get my first bug out bag. And so I plan to send one down there to Tony in Louisiana. Let me show you some stuff that I keep in my bug out bag. First of all, number one, a Bible. Biggest thing, most important thing in your bug out bag. You need to have you a Bible. Let's see, I also had a candle. These are things I showed you before, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. Got me not a flare. What do you call that thing? A light stick. You never can tell when you need that. Like this little dude. Got me a whistle. It's also got a compass and got a thermometer on the back. These are just little things that I picked up at Walmart. They're just really cheap. Got me some thing with matches so that it doesn't get wet, because you never know. In cold days like today, it's going to be stay in the 20s all day today. And my wife's off in the car, and I've got the bug out bag. I hope she doesn't get stranded somewhere. Got me one of these little poncho things in case it gets wet out there. Always need to brush your teeth. A blanket, one of those reflective blanket thingies. And Germex. They tell me you can actually light that stuff on fire. How about that? So there you go. All right, so there's next time I'll show you my next one, but I wanted to review. That's some of the stuff that I keep in my bug out bag. You need to get one. And I'll tell you an easy way to get one is to send me a comment, something that I can use on this particular program as we do this once a week that will help others to appreciate where we are with regards to last days things. All right, what else we got left here? Let me come down here. Currently, I think maybe this is the next thing I do. Nope, we done did that one. How about this one? Done did that one. Oh, we only got 2 left. Chin up. We're going to end each time with this reminder, so you're going to see this a lot. Chin up. You'll notice that chin is an acronym. Is that what you call that when you got letters? I think it's an acronym. Chin is an acronym, and here's what chin stands for. Here are the 4 things I think that are very, very practical that need to be happening in your home right now as we prepare to see the intensity rise with regards to last days things. Number 1, you need to keep your family close. Study Deuteronomy chapter 6. Talks about how when you get up, when you walk along, etc. But one of the things that's kind of missed with that particular passage, where we always deal with the stuff that you're supposed to do, but one of the things is you can't do it unless you're with your folks, unless you're with your kids. When you get up, when you walk along the path, when you lie down, etc. You be with your people. Be with your family. You need to keep your family close. Number 2, I get in trouble with this one all the time, but Titus chapter 2 and verse 5 doesn't go away. And it says that women are to be primarily homemakers, home protectors. You need to be, talking to the men for a moment, you need to do everything possible to give your wife the ability to stay home and to manage the home scenario. Everybody needs a safe place to run to. Everybody needs a place where they can know that they can go there and things are in order. Things are as they need to be. I'm convinced that as I study the Bible from the Genesis chapter 3, that men are designed to go out and bring things in. Women are designed to go in and bring things out, meaning they are nurturers. You need to get a full-time home protector. And men, you need to do whatever possible to allow your wife to have that opportunity. Nothing more important, I feel like, there's nothing more important that you can do to secure your home physically and spiritually than to get yourself a full-time home protector. Women are designed to do that. Number 3, invest. Matthew chapter 6, we need to invest in heaven. You need to talk about heaven. You need to long for heaven. You need to dream about heaven, but you also need to share that with your children. Don't do it just in those times when you have those awkward moments that you have to go and visit the funeral home. It needs to be a conversation piece at your supper table, etc., etc. When you're laying down at night to go off to sleep, they need to have sweet dreams about heaven. Let them fantasize and what's it going to be like to swim in the river of life and to build a treehouse and the tree of life, and hold hands with Jesus as you walk through. They need to have those thoughts. And then number 4, notice. Chin. You see I'm spelled out chin there. Notice. Mark chapter 13, 32 through 37. I want you to read that, please. But it tells about how we need to notice what's going on around about us. You live in the end times. You're living in the last days. And one of the things we're instructed in many places, not just Mark, but in many places, is that we need to be alert. We need to recognize we're living in the last days. And so we need to be prepared for it, and we need to do everything possible to prepare our family for it. Be alert. That's why this book, what I did with my book that Tony gave me, that's why this book was so good. I got to get that. How do I do that? Here we go. Bring it over here. There you go. Sheep no more. Because it's about being alert. It's about knowing what you're going to do in any given situation. And especially men, you need to do that. And you need to be alert. So, keep your family close, get you a full-time homemaker, invest in heaven, and be sure to notice everything's going on around about you. You're going to hear those 4 points throughout, because I think that they're 4 of the most practical, most important things that you can do. There you go. Last Days Live. I hope that it's been beneficial to you. Please send me your comments. Till next time, keep your eyes on the skies, because he's coming. Survival till arrival. Sonny Chalice, be there. Matthew 16:26.